Yo, in this video, we'll be doing a tier list for Varesa's best weapons. We're just going to rank them based around which of them are going to provide the best damage for Varesa. First of all, we're going to see what she needs on a weapon. This is going to be pretty quick and simple. She's mainly just going to be your normal damage dealer, so the stats she's going to need are going to be pretty basic. First thing she's going to need is going to be the attack. She needs like either attack weapons or high base attack weapons, especially high base attack is going to be pretty good. She's going to scale pretty well with that, so it's going to be super good if you can get weapons with high base attack. The next thing you're going to need are just going to be crit damage and crit rate. Crit damage is probably going to be a little bit more important, and then crit rate is still going to be pretty good. She's not really going to be using the Natlin set, so she still is going to need crit rate for her to function. So having a crit rate weapon is going to be pretty decent too. And after that, any sort of damage bonus in general, either electro damage bonus, plunging damage bonus, and stuff like that are going to be pretty good. But yeah, that's really pretty much it. It's just your normal DPS weapons. Now let's move on and rank the weapons in the tier list. Alright, so starting off with the 3-star weapons, we're just going to go through them pretty quickly because none of them are going to work. Just super low base stack, they're just not going to compare to the best weapons. So Magic Guide, EM is just going to be D tier, Thrill and Tails, D tier, Otherworldly, D tier, Emerald Orb is also D tier, Twin Nephrite is crit rate, so it's kind of usable, I'll put it as C tier, and then finally the Ember's Bed is also just going to be D tier. None of them are really going to be the weapons you'd want to use. Now, moving on to the 4-star options, we have some decent 4 stars you can use on her. Starting off with the Favonius Codex, it's not going to be one of them. It's just energy recharge, so it's kind of meh. I wouldn't really say you want that much energy recharge on her. You do want some, but I don't think it's the stat you'd want to go for on your weapon specifically. So I'll just put it as C tier. It's not really the weapon you want to go for. The Witse is pretty good. It's going to give you crit damage as a sub-stat, which is pretty decent. And then the stats, it's either just going to give you damage bonus or attack or elemental mastery. The elemental mastery stat is going to be kind of useless, or completely useless actually, but the attack and damage bonus stats are going to be super good. So it's going to be pretty good like 2 out of 3 times, which is good, I guess, but a third of the time it's going to be kind of useless for the passive at least. The substat is always going to be there, so I think it's a decent weapon. It's not bad. I'll put it at either A or B tier. I'll put it like low A tier, I would guess. Decent weapon. Sacrificial, which is elemental mastery, and then the skill reset, probably like C tier. Royal Grimoire is just attack. Passive is whatever. I'll put it like B tier, low B tier. Solar Pearl is going to be pretty decent. It's a crit rate substat, which as I said is going to be pretty decent too, because she's not going to be using the Natlin set, and it's going to increase your elemental skill bursts and normal attacks damage, which is, I guess, okay. Most of her damage is going to be plunging attacks, so it's not going to matter too much, but it's not bad. So I put it like high B tier. Broad type Amber, it's just HP, like C tier. Mappa Mare, elemental mastery, and some damage bonus, but I'll probably put it C tier too. Blackcliff is just going to be the crit damage and then attack if you kill an enemy. It always depends, but I think it works pretty well with Varesa. It's much better if you're actually able to kill enemies, but if they're big enemies, you won't be able to do that. Kind of inconsistent, so I'll probably put it like high B tier, but in general, it's a decent weapon. It's not bad. I have Perception, it's just attack, some extra damage from the passive, just B tier, I think. Wine and Song is energy recharge, just C tier. Frostbearer, attack, and then some extra damage. Probably put it at B tier too. Dotoko Tails, it's gonna increase your charge attacks damage and attack, but it's gonna have a low base attack, so I don't think it's as good. I put it like pretty low B tier. It's probably not the weapon you'd want to use. Action Ring is energy recharge, and then it's more of a supportive passive. Probably C tier 2. Oathsworn Eye, just attack, and then it's just gonna increase your energy recharge, probably B tier. Wandering Even Star, it's elemental mastery, and then it's gonna increase your attack based on your elemental mastery. You're not gonna be building elemental mastery on Varesa, so it's not gonna be the best weapon to use. I'll probably put it as C tier 2. For Fulfillment, it's just energy recharge and then supportive, some attack, but it's kind of whatever. I'll also probably put it as C tier. Sacrificial Jade, it's gonna be crit rate, which is pretty good, but it's gonna have a low base attack. That's not good. The passive is kind of whatever. It's just gonna increase your HP and your elemental mastery, which is not really all of that, so I'll probably put a B tier 2, low B tier even. Flow Impurity is going to have high base attack for a 4-star weapon, and then an attack substat, which is pretty good. And then when you use an elemental skill, it's going to increase your elemental damage bonus, which is super good. And then it's going to give you a Bond of Life, and if you clear it, it's going to give you damage bonus based around your HP, basically. You probably will be able to clear the Bond of Life because you're probably going to be playing Varesa with healers, whether it's Shallonen or whatever. So you're going to be able to clear the Bond of Life, and you're going to be able to get the bonus. So yeah, I think Flow Impure is probably the best free-to-play weapon, I would guess. At least in my opinion, so I'll put it like high A tier, just the high base attack and then the good amount of damage bonus. So yeah, I'll put that like high A tier. Battle with Boundless Blue is just energy recharge. The passive can increase your normal attacks and charge attacks, but it's kind of whatever. I'll put it like C tier 2. Ash Graven Drinking Horn is gonna be HP and then some extra damage based around your HP too. It's not good, so I'll probably put it like D tier. Wave Ride and Whirl, energy recharge, low base attack. Passive is basically just useless. It's just gonna be increasing your HP and based around the hydro elements. Probably D tier 2 is there's not a single good thing in this weapon. And then finally, the final 4-star Ring of Yakshay HP substat, which is terrible, and it's gonna be increasing your normal attacks damage based on your HP, which is not even that good. So I'd probably put that at D tier 2. It's definitely not the weapon you'd want to use. Now, finally, moving on to the 5-star options. Unfortunately, you're gonna see a huge difference between 5 stars and 4 stars. She relies a lot on like the high base stack and the usual DPS stuff. And in these, obviously, we're gonna see 5-star weapons just excel pretty heavily. So it's not me who's ranking the 5 stars just high because they're 5 stars. It's just that 5 stars are simply better for her. Most of them, at least. We're going to see a little bit. But yeah, starting off with the Scoured Atlas, it's just going to be a huge base attack and then also a good attack substat, which is pretty good. It's also going to give you damage bonus and then it's just some extra damage from the passive. This is basically everything you need. It's better than every single 4-star we've seen before, even the best 4 stars. So yeah, there's not really much you could do here. So yeah, it just deserves top A tier. It's better than every single weapon here. Last Prayer, it's actually going to be a pretty decent weapon too. It's going to give you a crit rate, which I said is going to be pretty good, unlike a lot of Natla main DPSs. And then when you're on the field, it's going to give you damage bonus. You're going to be playing Varesa on the field, so you're going to be able to take full advantage out of that. So yeah, it's just crit rate and the damage bonus. I think it's a pretty good weapon for her. Honestly, I think it's up there. There's not really many like catalysts that are going to be better than that, so I'll just put that S tier. I think Last Prayer is going to be one of the best weapons for her. Memory of Dust is just an attack stat stick, basically. I don't think you're going to be playing her shielded. Depends on the team comp, obviously, but most times you won't. But it's still a super good weapon, better than most weapons. So yeah, I just put that A tier. Jadefall's Splendor, high base attack, but it's gonna give you HP as a substat, which is not good. The passive is just gonna be giving you energy and then some damage bonus based on your HP. You're not gonna be building that much HP, but it's still gonna be a decent amount of damage bonus. It's not terrible, but it's definitely not the weapon you want to use, especially for 5-star standards. So I'll probably put it like low B tier. Everlasting Moonglow, it just no. Probably like C tier. Actually, fuck it, I'll just put it D tier. I hate that weapon. Gyra's Verity is just crit damage, average base attack for a 5-star. The passive is just gonna increase your elemental skills damage, which is not bad, but it's also not, you know, something you want to aim for. It's a decent weapon, it's not bad. I'll just put that A tier too. Pretty good. Thousand Floats and Dreams is just elemental mastery, low base attack for a 5-star, which is not good. And then it's just gonna give you either some damage bonus or elemental mastery too, which is kind of whatever. Probably put it like very low B tier just for the damage bonus. It can be good. You're probably gonna be able to get like 20-30% damage bonus, which is not bad, but it's definitely not the weapon you want to go for. So yeah, I put it like super low B tier. Bladeslayer's Remembrance, super high base attack, crit damage as a substat, so it's already a good stat stick. Passive is just gonna be focusing on your normal attacks. It's not bad, but it's also not super good. I'd also put it like A tier. This is the place for this weapon, really. But yeah, it's definitely not a bad weapon, especially just mainly as a stat stick. Cashflow Supervision, pretty much the exact same thing, but it's gonna have a crit rate passive and super high base attack, which is pretty good. It's also gonna give you attack from the passive, which is pretty good. The HP increase and decrease stuff, you're probably not gonna be able to do that, except you're playing her like Fiorina, maybe, I don't know. But in most cases, we're gonna assume you're not gonna be able to activate it, and that weapon is still gonna be pretty decent even without it. So yeah, it's just gonna be a decent stat stick, crit rate, and then super high base attack, and then attack from the passive. There's not much you want to ask for. I'll put it like a high A tier too. It's a pretty good weapon. We got Nivea's signature weapon, Tome of the Eternal Flow, low base attack, but crit damage as a substat, and it's a huge substat. It's gonna give you HP from the passive, which is not that good, and then also when your HP increases or decreases, it's gonna increase your charge attacks damage. It's mainly just a stat stick, really, but at like mid A tier. Now I have Shan Yun's signature weapon. It's gonna have incredibly high base attack, highest in the game, and then also an attack substat, which is pretty good. The passive's kind of meh, really. It's just gonna increase your teammates' plunge and attacks, and then if they do plunge attack, they're gonna restore energy for you. It's not good for a main DPS character in general, but just as a stat stick, it's not gonna be bad. So yeah, I'd probably put it like kind of high-ish A tier. Surf's Up, low base attack for a 5-star, but a huge crit damage substat. Passive is kind of whatever, just HP increase, and then some normal attacks damage increase. You won't be able to trigger Vapor price with her, so it's probably not gonna matter as much. I'd also put it at like mid A tier. It's a good stat stick. Starcaller's Watch, Elemental Mastery stat stick, basically I put it like C tier. Sunny Morning Sleep In, also an Elemental Mastery stat stick, basically same thing, I just put it as C tier. And then finally we have her signature weapon, Vivid Notions. High base attack even for a 5-star, and then a crit damage substat, which is pretty good. It's also gonna increase your attack from the passive, which is pretty good. And then when you use a plunging attack, which should be easy with Varesa, you're gonna activate the passive and you're gonna gain plunging attack crit damage. It's gonna increase by 28%. And then when you use elemental skill or burst, your plunging attacks crit damage is gonna increase by an additional 40%, which is super huge. It's basically her perfect weapon. It's just gonna be focusing on buffing her plunging attacks, which is pretty good, and it's gonna give you all you need: high base attack, crit damage substat. So yeah, obviously it's gonna be her best weapon. As you guys can see here, Lost Prayer and her signature, in my opinion, are the only ones that are gonna deserve like an S tier status. The rest of the weapons, even 5-stars, are mainly just gonna be stat sticks, so I don't think they really deserve S tier. They don't really fit her like perfectly like that. You're mainly gonna be using any of these just for like the crit damage substat or something like that, so it's not really gonna be the weapons that are gonna put S tier, but they're still pretty good, especially better than 4-star weapons. For 4-star weapons, probably the Flowing Purity is probably gonna be your only option, I would say, or maybe some crit weapons here like Sword or Pearl or whatever, but in general, if you have any 5-stars, they're probably gonna be better. But yeah, that was the video, guys. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys next video. Peace.